DeAndre Hopkins showed up on my timeline yesterday. This morning, I don't remember when, but I don't know if you guys recall, but he was traded away right at the beginning of COVID. And it made it hard to focus on all of the things that were happening with COVID because the Texans had pulled off this ridiculously weird trade with DeAndre Hopkins. But as you guys will recall, Jack Easterby was transitioning from his role as either vice president of this on into co-GM, whatever the hell it was. But there's a trend on TikTok right now where people do like a fake promo for a Netflix documentary, and this was DeAndre's stab at it. You'll want to read the captioning to get the joke. So for those of you who can't read it, preparing for the Netflix doc on surviving a pastor turned NFL general manager. I just want to take a look in admiration and whichever sculpture DeAndre has on top of his head right there. I tried to pull that off one year. Didn't work out well at all. This is the thing about my PTSD with Jack Easterby. It's that I will take credit as being the first person that said, man, something's not right with this Jack Easterby situation. And I kind of stopped talking about it because so many people asked me. So many people were annoyingly like, Seth, what the hell are you talking about? You're making a big deal out of nothing. So even as the heat started getting turned up on what the hell was going on with Jack Easterby, I kind of just sat back and watched because what I saw was happening. If we might speak in generalities for a moment, not even talking about any one specific person, but I will say as a generality, sometimes when there are very charismatic, compulsive liars in an organization, it is ridiculously hard to root them out because they are so adept at creating this weave, this tapestry of lies that nobody knows what the actual reality of a situation is. And when you talk to people who are in a football organization like that, sometimes they get like this glazed over look on their eyes. Talking about speaking to them in current days about just how weird everything was, and to the point where you just didn't know how you were going to get stabbed in the back or what was going to be said about you, and that you might try to like get something straightened out. So say like, hey, you person that I think is a compulsive liar and a sociopath, let's get together with person B who you told I said something, and then you told me that person B says it. Let's all get together in one room. And the meeting never happens. But meanwhile, they've sidled up to the person with all the power, or the people with all the power, and they tell whichever lies they need to tell. And it's ridiculous like how effectively they can wheedle their way in. So I didn't like it from the get-go just because there was like from the very get. Well, for one, you remember when he was first brought in, he was listed as a former assistant to the general manager or assistant GM for the Jaguars. So I called up some people in Jacksonville that I knew, and they were like, I don't know who the hell you're talking about, Seth. Like, what are you talking? No. And then they dug in. They were like, yeah, he was like an intern for a little while, I guess. And I kind of just like, I let that go. And that was on the website for a while. But it was very, very frustrating. The one positive thing you can say is that I do think that it was because of Easterby that the Texans hired Nick Caserio. It ended up leading to some good things, but it was a ridiculously bad situation. When it comes to wide receiver drama, let's stick with the wide receiver drama theme today before I watch the Astros. This was Tom Brady when he was on The Heights, the Kelsey Brothers podcast, talking about the managing the emotions of wide receivers as we discuss various A.J. Brown and Brandon Aiyuk situations right this moment. We're talking a lot more about the Brandon Aiyuk situation. But this was Tom Brady just talking about how there's always some kind of drama every year in the league with wide receivers, and that you just have to manage your wide receivers to be sure that they don't go too high or too low with the production or lack thereof. This is just one little chunk of it. It's a really good interview with Travis and Jason Kelsey.
We got to look at it over the course of the year. You got to sustain, because it is a lot of emotional energy that you put out to that position to go, come on, we got it. Come on, stay locked in. Let's go, because I need you. Come on. And it's like that position takes away, if you have that volatile emotional output, it takes a lot of energy from a lot of people to keep that player really stable. So you got to try to reframe it for them and just say, listen, you may get 3, but you're going to get 11, or you might get 11, And then, three, it's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
If they're doubling Travis, you ain't touching the ball. That's the reality. If they're butching you at the line of scrimmage with the defensive end and they've got, some ridiculous athlete over the top of you, you ain't, but it frees it up for other people.
Exactly.
And you got to be cool with that. So, I mean, as we're going to see it again this year.
Yeah. So the psychology of a wide receiver, it is. I feel bad for wide receivers because they are the one position that there's times where there's nothing you can do that's going to get the situation right, especially if you don't have a great quarterback. And you could be beating your guy, you could be winning. Like he's talking there where guys clearly aren't going to have as much production when they're double covered. But even in games where the ball just doesn't come your way, they get very, very frustrated. And Tom Brady probably was at his best in terms of that when we managed to keep Antonio Brown placated for however long they needed to win a Super Bowl. Ultimately, he would be doing jumping jacks shirtless off the field. But for a little while, he figured it out. I think that's one thing the Texans have been relatively blessed with is that, I mean, going back to Andre Johnson, then look, DeAndre is a different type of dude, but I never worried about, what did I used to call him? I used to call him blue-collar Gucci, because he was always dressed up in, fashion-forward stuff and everything, kind of funky in that way. He had kind of the eccentricities of a diva wide receiver, but he operated like a blue-collar guy. So we've been lucky with that. Nico Collins, likewise, other than just whatever, contract either discontent or maneuvering they did this offseason. I mean, that was very, very muted, and it was taken care of pretty quickly. But it was never anything that boiled over onto the field. So, I mean, knock on wood, it's not something we have to worry about like we have to worry about perhaps with Brandon Aiyuk. And I know, as far as, I don't know if I've even talked about this yet. I'm open to the Texans bringing anybody in on a minimum contract as long as, like they did with C.J. Gardner-Johnson last year, and that wasn't a minimum contract, but it was a reasonable deal. As long as they're willing to cut ties as soon as they have to. You got to be careful if you're doing that all the time because they do provide a disruption, even though you take care of the disruption, and then it does add up. But right now, I don't think personally Brandon Aiyuk wants to play football anymore, and if he just is genuinely in a bad state of mind where he doesn't even understand the logistics of the situation he's in. But here's Dante Whitner on his podcast. I'll say the name of it once I pull this up. Talking with his co-host about Brandon Aiyuk.
Brandon Aiyuk will never play
Okay, so it's the grit code.
another down in the NFL. Yeah, you went at the 49ers front office and their coaching staff. You were very disgruntled, but the only chance you had was Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders.
You're going to have to start running behind your mama, and I might believe what you're talking about. But
so when you act immature and the kid approached Jaden Daniels and said, F Brandon Aiyuk, and he had to laugh it off because there's cameras there. You're a franchise quarterback. You can't react any other way. You have to do exactly what he did. And for Brandon Aiyuk to not understand that and go on social media and attack Jaden Daniels and his mom, you sealed your fate. I think that's rest in peace for Brandon Aiyuk's career.
I don't personally like to be flippant in talking about mental health or talking about possible brain trauma. There's something wrong. Just hate to see it.
And he was also recently on there talking about, I got to make money on social media. Brandon Aiyuk, you're not making any fucking money on social media. You don't even have a business account.
It's crazy to hear I have to make money on social media when you were making ridiculous money being a very good football player. And all you had to do was just show up.
A lot of players are disgruntled with the teams, but you know how they handle it? They show up and do what's asked. They ask their representation to ask for a trade. You don't disappear. You don't go ghost. If you just show up, you get your contract in entirety, even if you never touch the football field again.
I'm afraid of one day going on my phone and I read something sad and tragic about Brandon Aiyuk.
You know what? Okay, I'm glad he said that at the very end. I hadn't heard that the first time. Now I feel like it. I do feel I try to be careful with Brandon Aiyuk because I do think he's either crazy or he's crazy like a fox. Like this right now, if he doesn't want to play football again, he's basically effectively distancing himself from any team that might even want to bring him in on a flyer with a bunch of incentives. But he's also distancing himself from his friend Jaden Daniels, who I don't believe is participating in any of this. A lot of people have this theory that, Jaden Daniels is they're just messing with the media and everything together. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make it, especially from the reports on Jaden Daniels, is he's a mature mature young football player. Like, he wouldn't be, as he's still trying to prove himself as a quarterback in the NFL, I don't think participating in hijinks such as this. One of you brought up a good point about Jack Easterby. There are times that horrible ineptitude can lead to extreme competence. I got my job because the person filling my position before me cost my employer roughly $23 million in a data breach. Oh, my goodness. The whole thing about Easterby, and this is where, the Chiefs went through a period when the elder Hunt, Mr. Hunt, I can't think of his name, Lamar Hunt, died, where everything was kind of in flux for a little bit, and things were very, very unstable, and then things stabilized to an extreme degree. And I think when Bob McNair died, I do think there was a period there, a window of time, where as Cal and Hannah are trying to get their footing, they were kind of vulnerable to somebody like Jack Easterby, who could promise to be the easy button. The person that could bring it all together. The person's he's got a way with people and players. And man, boy, Bill O'Brien's got a lot on his plate, and he doesn't really might not like the GM that he has right now in Brian Gaine. But we'll bring in this guy who just sees things differently. And basically, any idea that's out of the box, he thinks is a good idea, simply by virtue of it being outside the box. It's a big mistake people make. Outside the box is good. Outside the box all the time, overpaying for players, trading away players for nothing at all. You can survive one of those two moves, but you can't survive $400 million out of the box moves. Oh, it's so frustrating. It was ridiculous. All right, I'm going to go watch the Astros try to win this series here.